I remember the first time I came here after the lockdown was quite scary. You still had on the sign Vayakov B'Kudei.
Shia, you're slacking. Come on. Everyone's waiting for the drink. What do you reckon? By the way, you should wait till tomorrow. Connection? That whole thing.
It's hard.
It might take time for it to that TTL. Yeah, but that's TTL. Time how long after?
Okay, everything's on.
Did I try it?
No, when did you get a deleted item? So just wait till tomorrow and then see. If not, I've got the list of things I'd like to try. First, I'd like to see if you can see on
Look yourself. I love this design.
and I reckon someone
That cupboard.
and a few things. No, we didn't try to jump over. Yeah, but check. No,
Try to call it a couple of times. Not having this call. Maybe you can send me your number afterwards. Okay, let's get going. So let me know, yes?
Phone number.
Right. We're up to Daf Kuf, page 100. We're actually really done 99. Oh, it's really quick. Put some pictures up. Actually, the article were better pictures today. For those who don't have article.
We're not at the mission on the bottom side of the
Yeah. Okay, but the Daf we're doing is page Kuf.
Nice football, actually.
Um,
On the top.
yeah, if you don't mind.
No, he's on the diet. You're the one. Oh, I get these first four in the top right. Do you want the page?
Okay. What? Yeah, I called you as well. Obviously, I've got you giving you the wrong number. I told you gave me the number. Oh, you did? Oh. He's good. I asked for my report. The Shai is not Chasal on the second. They established it according to certain parameters. That's what I was saying. Yeah, he agreed with it. Okay, we have to start. Get to go. A lot to do. Right. Says the Mishnah. It's Tzaddik Testament base. Elon, show your meisich. If you've had the chance, Tony's already put up the picture. We're talking about a very, very big tree. Picture number, the one with the big tree. Tovkuf Peivov. Tovkuf Peivov. If you've got a massive tree and the tree goes down across, you've got like a room made out of a tree. And then what's the din? Show it to David. You got a tree out. Well, you're actually not on the tree. Then what's the halacha? You're allowed to carry. Why are you allowed to carry there? Because it's a proper room.
Do we have the same thing with the
yes.
basic floors as well?
So the many halachas, if you look carefully at the picture, you'll notice the branches have to get within 3 tvachim of the floor. They have to be a certain height, 10 tvachim. No, it's not. Doesn't. Just have to be. So Elon should make it's main if it's more if it's less than 3 tvachim of the floor, you're allowed to carry it. This halacha the Gemara is hardly going to deal with. It's a very simple halacha. That when you're in a tree, it's as if you've got walls. You've actually got walls around you, right? This halacha the Gemara is going to go on and on and on about. If you've got roots coming out of the ground, if they're 3 tvachim above ground level, you're not allowed to sit on them. Why are you not allowed to sit on the roots of a tree?
Might break them.
Might break them. That means you're not allowed to sit on a tree. You're not allowed to climb up a tree on Shabbos or Yom Tov in case you'll break off a branch. This is a very big chumrah d'Rabbanan, a gzeira d'Rabbanan. You're never allowed to climb a tree. Why? You may come to pull off a branch. No, you're not allowed to climb off a tree. Not allowed to use a tree. Not allowed to hang your coat on a tree. And we said this before, the famous story of the Stipler. What happened was he was a soldier in the Russian army, and they had he was his job to be the night guard, and they had a very, very thick coat. And they put the guard before him, hung it on the tree, and he spent the whole night saying just another 5 minutes, and he never put on the coat. And the moral of the story is that you can always do another 5 minutes, and that's how you push on through life. But it's a very interesting gazelle. It's a chomodik gazelle. I've told you before that was once talking to the Metzri Aaron. It's and somebody's hat blew off. They landed on a tree, on a bush, on a hedge. They didn't know whether to take it off. My mitzvah allowed them. I do not remember why. So it's not such a good story. Well, it was a long time ago. What? Yeah, that question is bush to the tree. They land on the tree, or definitely also.
Your hat's different anyway because it's very light.
It still makes no difference. If your hat lands on the tree, you may not take your hat off the tree. Now over here, if it's less than 3 tvachim high, it is mutter. The reason why less than 3 tvachim high is simply it does not look like a tree. It's a matter of a gezer d'Rabbanan, only 3 tvachim. So now the Gemara first tackles the first halacha very briefly. You're not allowed to carry in this tree house, which is covered, this like canopy of a tree, if it's more than base of sign. My time, top of Kufamad Aleph, you should have a dirush tashmisho la'avir. This is like a difficult, the language is difficult, like this. There are certain buildings where the purpose of the building is to be on the inside, and certain buildings which are made only for the outside. This room, the purpose of the building is to be inside the room. If you're in a watchtower, or if you're in a gate in a farm and you are a shepherd, the purpose of the hut that you're living in is not because you want to live inside it. You're not interested in staying inside it. It's not there for it. It's only there because you want to be able to look out on the neighboring fields. And therefore it's called tashmishto la'avir, meaning the purpose of it is for the air on the outside. And anything which is the air on the outside, Chazal were machmir, that if it's bigger than Beis Sosaim, unless it's a proper wall, you cannot use it. Since we're talking about a tree, it's not a proper wall, and it's not made to live in, so therefore it's forbidden. And we have this halacha in other cases as well, that if you make yourself a hut, which is not a real living space, if it's bigger than Beis Sosaim, you're not allowed to live in it. If it's small Beis Sosaim, you are. So now we're going to discuss the second half, the last few words of the Mishnah, that a root which is had in 3 tvachim. Shlosh gvim noas v'chulu itma. Shlosh ilon, I would like to, if you don't mind, look at the pictures for a minute. If you can put up some of the article pictures, that would also be great, because we're like this. Look at picture Tov Kuf Pei Zayin. You've got a root that comes out of the ground, goes up, and then it goes down. So everything above 3 tvachim, what's the halacha? Awesome. Anything below 3 tvachim, mutter, right? So are you allowed to lean against a tree? Mutter also. Can you lean on Shabbos against a tree? Awesome, very good. It's also to lean against a tree. If you're leaning against a part which is less than 3 tvachim high, it is okay, right? Now, what happens if you've got a root that goes up and then it goes down? So what would you say? Anything above 3 tvachim is also, below 3 tvachim is mutter. Here the Gemara says maybe not. What is the logic? That anything lower than 3 tvachim, since it is coming from a branch which is higher, a root which is higher than 3 tvachim, when you use the lower part, you're then actually using the higher part. If you imagine somebody sits on the part which is going below 3 tvachim, the picture Tov Kuf Pei Zayin. And somebody say to you, what are you using? Using the whole root, including the part which is higher than 3 tvachim. So it's machlokes. No. Very good. Imagine you've got a root that never gets to the height of 3 tvachim. It's going up, and it's only 2 tvachim high, so then it's okay, because it never went to 3 tvachim. Right, that's the halacha. You can use the first 3 tvachim, because that's below 3 tvachim. But here it went up, and then it went down. If you use the part that went down, you actually, this is a machlokes. Let's look more inside. Shlosh gvim noas v'chulu itma. Shlosh ilon aboin v'lemalo. From above 3 to below 3. Rabbi Omar mutar l'shtamish ben, you're allowed to. Rabbi Yishish Sama also l'shtamish ben. Rabbi Omar mutar l'shtamish ben. Why? The chapach is l'shlosh arahi. Anything less than 3 is ground. Yishish Sama also l'shtamish ben. The kibbutz b'kach isa ka'osi asurim. That means since the root, you've got a branch goes up above 3 and then below 3, it's no difference if it's a root or a branch. Only the reason the Gemara talks about a root because it's more common that it should happen to a root. If you've got a branch, it goes up 3 and then below 3, you may not, according to Rav Sheshes, use the area which is below 3, because by using the area which is below 3, you're relying on the area which is above 3 for your support, and that is forbidden. The same thing. No, it's worse like this. No, there would be also, sorry. There, if the branch itself starts at higher than 3 and goes down, that's also. Here we talk about the root from the ground. So go like this. A domu k'mishnisa. Mishnisa is a mountain. So if you look at the picture, I've got a picture. You've got a root. Have you uploaded the picture? So then what happens is you've got like a root that goes up like a mountain, and it's got a few roots coming off it. The salkin le'ela, those that go above 3 tvachim, as soon as also. The nachsin, according to everybody. The nachsin letatoi, those that are lower than 3 tvachim, mushoi. Let's start in, meaning those that start at higher than 3. You've got, look at the picture, they go up. The main root goes up higher than 3, and then there's a bit that goes down below 3. So that is the machloikas, plugta d'Rabba v'Rav Sheshes. V'chein and Nigra. The same story would be by a Nigra. And Nigra basically is, you've got a furrow in the ground. Right? Imagine you've got like a, what's the things where your barge goes on, canal. You've got a canal. You've got a tree growing in the canal. Right? And from the canal is quite narrow, and the tree blocks the entire canal. And you're looking at the area above the bank of the canal, which is less than 3 tvachim. So from above the bank, it is less than 3 tvachim. From the root, it's more than 3 tvachim. B'chein b'keren zovis. Similarly, if you've got a tree in a corner, it's actually pictured Tovkuf Tzadi, where if you look at the corner, it is higher than 3 tvachim from the walls. If you look above the walls, like if you've got a tree growing literally in that corner, so it goes higher, but if you look at it, it's not higher than 3 tvachim from the root. So that's a machloikas between Rabbah and Rav Sheshes. Ahu dikle davela abaya. That is something be puma. So this is picture Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph. Can you look at the picture of Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph? You've got a tree that grows in the house, and out of the roof it grows. And above the roof, it is less than 3 tvachim high. But if you go all the way to the bottom, it is, match, I think in Kew Gardens, they have this beautiful, I've never been there, but you've got like this, imagine you've got a nice tree, and it's poking above the roof, less than 3 tvachim. So then the Gemara says like this. So how did the Dabla by the Soy be Pomos committed abuse? So surely permitted it. He permitted it to like Rabba. This is a pshita, obviously. Because according to Sheshes, you go from the roots. Malatim after love Sheshes basic man de maladami. Here it's much better. Because we've got a principle that a house is as if it's completely filled. We've had this halacha twice in Halacha Shabbos, in the Gemara Shabbos. Very good. That's one case. I just explained, no, not by Tumah. If you throw something, it goes through a house and it comes out the other side of the house, it's considered as if you did a hanocha according to one shitta. Rather than shitta special, because it's considered as if it landed. We had another one. Does anybody remember where? If you've got a skylight between upstairs and downstairs, so therefore it's considered a Pesach, because the house, if it's full, so it's considered an entranceway. So therefore you might thought the house is considered as if it's completely full up. And therefore, the only thing you've got is above the roof. And above the roof, it doesn't get to 3 tvachim. But that even the contra of Sheshes is forbidden. The Mishnah says that if it's higher than 3 tvachim, you're not allowed to sit in them. If the branches go up 3 tvachim and don't bend down, pshita. So higher than 3 tvachim. Everybody knows you're not allowed to use a tree higher than 3 tvachim. Elav dafka v'hadu kipi. Look, even if it goes back down, it is also it's a right to who? It's a right to have Sheshes that says it's also not like Rabba. Look, even if on one side it's the same height as the land. So here you've got a picture in the article, you've got a picture in the picture top of the base. I personally prefer the article's picture. But basically, what happens is like this. You've got a tree where on one side it is level with the ground, on the other side it's 3 tvachim above the ground. Have you got the picture? So then the question is, you might have thought, well look, at the end of the day, on one side it's level to the ground, so it should be mutter. No, since on most of the sides it is higher than the ground, so therefore it's considered 3 tvachim above ground level, and it is also. So you go according to the majority of the walls. If they're higher than 3 tvachim, again, you have to look at the picture of Tovkuf Tzadik base. What happens is like this: you've got roots, and somebody dug a hole in the ground. So the root is actually level with the ground. But because somebody dug a hole in the ground, so it's actually 3 tvachim above the ground. In both of these cases, you're not allowed to sit on them. If you say in Oilin Be'ilon, you're not allowed to climb a tree. Vein Nitlin Be'ilon, you're not allowed to hang things on a tree. Vein Nishonin Be'ilon, you're not allowed to lean on a tree. You're not allowed to go up on a tree and sit there the whole day. Here it's even a bigger chiddush. If you climb up a tree and you remain sitting there the whole Shabbos, so what's the chashash? No, Chazal forbade you from using a tree altogether. Echad ilon, ve'echad kol behema, you're not allowed to sit on the animal either. You're not allowed to sit on the animal. So they just showed me, I was quite happy to see it. What? No, because we're talking about when you're not making the animal walk. You're just sitting there on the animal without making the animal walk. Because the problem is that in those days, the way you used to get an animal to move is to pull a branch and whip the animal. So by pulling the branch, you'd be over a koitza. So they forbade you to use an animal. There's a beautiful sefer. It's called it's a national kodesh. It's 500 years of shadarim. Do anybody know what the word shadar means? What? The shadar is people that go collecting for the kehelas and Eretz Yisrael. There were many great people. The Chidor himself was a shadar. 500 years. So you know that famous story? It's actually in that sefer. It says who it was, the name. Shadash. That what happened was, there's a famous story that he was going traveling, and he came to Friday afternoon, and he said to them, "Look, you promised." He paid them extra that they should stop on Friday afternoon, and they said, "We're not stopping here Friday afternoon." And the fact that he gave us extra, we're not interested. So they all traveled on, and he stayed there the whole Shabbos, and a lion came to protect him for the whole Shabbos, and it helped him get back to catch up. And for the rest of the journey, they were mechamed him. Now, Allah is not allowed to travel an animal on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Why? Because you might come to pull off a branch and hit the animal. So over here, these are quite, it's interesting, because these are quite chomodik exeres to Rabbanon. Oh, a pit, a cave, a round pit, or even a fence, you're allowed to climb up a fence 100 amos. And if you want to go climbing, you know these things, you see it, I've never done it, but you go to Trafford Centre to have it. What's it called? Wall climbing. Rock climbing. You're allowed to go rock climbing on Shabbos. Now the question is, Rishonim asked this question, what's the chiddush? Why in the world should rock climbing be awesome? Anybody want to suggest? What's the Uvda the Chol?
Should be wrestling on Shabbos.
Oh, so Rashi says that Chazal wanted to tell you, we're not concerned about extra effort, because if it'd be extra effort, you wouldn't be allowed to go rock climbing either. It's only because we're choshesh you'll come to be toilish. The proof is you're allowed to go rock climbing. It's got to do with toilish. Meiri says like Yehuda, that when you do rock climbing, often you might have thought that what you do is you pull off branches and things like that, or bricks off the wall. I don't know how you do rock climbing, but you want to put your legs in. That's you're not allowed to, right? But Chazal never made that gzeir. So if you wish to go, if you want, you've got a step ladder in your house, you want to go up and down all Shabbos, you can go up as many times as you want, there's no problem. But if you want to climb a tree, which is a nice, simple tree, or just to lean against a tree, it is awesome. Now we're going to go a little bit more into the halachas of using a tree on Shabbos. Now here we've got a big problem. Let's see what you would say. Imagine you climbed a tree on Shabbos. Are you allowed to climb down on Shabbos?
No.
No, why not? You might pull a branch. So what should you stay on the tree on Shabbos? Are you allowed to stay on the tree on Shabbos? No. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What's better? What would you say is better? Is it better to stay, or is it better to come off? Why? Both of them are awesome. Both Chazal forbade you.
Keep still, nothing can happen.
But you're not allowed to sit on the tree. We said even if you go on Friday afternoon and you sit on the tree, you've done an Issa.
Yeah, it's more
What
like
do you say? Oh, Shabbat Ta'asa. That's the slowest to should have been. Very good. Shabbat Ta'asa. Shabbat Ta'asa means that if you're never sure what to do, better do nothing. That way you've done nothing wrong, right?
Doing nothing is an issue.
Oh,
Shed is an issue.
yes. The Shabbat Ta'asa is okay.
They're both issues.
But you're all saying you should stay still, which is, we'll see. It says the Gemara, Tani Choda. Im Olo, if you went up, Mutalevit, you can come down. The Tani Choda, also Levit, you're not allowed to come down. Lo Kasha. We've got a steer and advice as should you come down or not. And we paskin on all of these answers about the Mishnah. If you went up before Shabbos, so you never did an Aveva by going up, so Chazal said to you, okay, you can come down, because we don't want you to ruin your Shabbos by spending the entire Shabbos on a tree. But if you went on Shabbos, you're a wicked person, you went up on Shabbos, you should lose your entire Shabbos and just stay on the tree. If you went up on purpose, you've lost your Shabbos, you've got to sit there the whole Shabbos. If you went up by mistake, you can come down. And we shouldn't say over here mistake means either you forgot at Shabbos or you didn't know that climbing a tree is forbidden. Many times when you do an Avir B'Shogeg, did Chazal make a knas or not? Omar Avuna B'Dav Shiur Ketanoi. Got to Machlokes Tanoim. The Gemara wants to compare the question: should you stay on the tree or come off the tree? The Gemara wants to compare that question to a question regarding the blood which you have to throw on the mizbeach. We'll come to in a minute the connection. I want to get some of the Yesodis clear. Everybody hopefully says Eiruvin Korban every day, and there's many different korbanos. Each korban has a different amount of blood that you throw on the mizbeach. There are 3 that you only do 1 zrika on. Which are the 3? Chol Ma'isa and Pesach. There's many that you do 2, which is 4. Oila, Osham, Shlamim, Toida, etc. And then there's Chatos that you actually do on all 4 corners. Now, what happens if you mix up 2 korbanos, let's say, Korban Pesach together? I suddenly realized, let's say, I bring a Korban Pesach, you bring a Korban Pesach, pour the blood together. Even, what should we do now? What's the solution? That easy. Throw 1 zvik on 1 corner. Whatever happens, doesn't matter. My blood, your blood makes a difference. If we've got, let's say, an oila and the oila got mixed up, it's also not a problem. Throw it twice in the corners. Chatos, the chatos, also not a problem. Throw it in all 4 corners. The problem is what happens if you've got blood of a Korban Pesach, which get mixed up with the Korban, let's say, of an oila, and the oila you need to do in 2 corners, which is 4. You do it in the corners. And Pesach you need to do 1. What should you do? If you do 1, but you've not done it right because the oila needs to have 2. You do 2, you've done too much of the Korban Pesach. The Korban Pesach only needs 1. What would you do? You hear the problem? So this is Machlokes Tanoim. So Machlokes Tanoim, what you should do? What? Oh, then you have Baal Tosef. You do too little, you have Baal Tigra. So if you mix it up with the same kind, you've got no problem. The problem is if you mix it with different kinds. Here we've got a very interesting Machlokes Rashi. It's very hard to understand Rashi. Is that the Mishnah talks about 4 to 1. Now, what's a normal korban of 4? Rashi says chatos. Says this, I don't understand what Rashi is talking about because there's another fundamental difference between chatos and all other korbanos. What's the difference? No, different point. A chatos, you throw the blood on the top of the mizbeach, all the other korbanos on the bottom half of the mizbeach. So if you mix up a chatos with an oila, let's say a chatos with a pesach, you're really stuck. You've got, and in fact, the Gemara talks about the says you have to throw twice again. So we come to a chatos. The reason Rashi said chatos is because Rashi was looking for one which is 4, and the only one which is 4 is a chatos. Says Tosfos, when we say 4 over here, we don't mean literally 4. We mean oila and shlomim, which is 2, which is 4. But let's see the Mishnah inside. And they told him those that you put b'matan achas, shenis arba b'niton b'matan achas, yinosim b'matan achas, 2 once. Matan arba b'matan arba, yinosim b'matan arba. Matan arba b'matan achas. What happens if a 4 got mixed up with 1? Says well, blezer you're not to matan arba, do it 4, but I'm showing you not to matan achas. However, about tiga, according to you, be over about tiga. If you can do over about Tosef. You're not over about Tosef because you can't, because over here you're doing it because of the other things, so you're not over about Tosef. Your logic is about Tosef because it's not about Tosef because it's mixed with others. It's not about Tiga because it's mixed with others. So why are you upset with me? If you go ahead and sprinkle about Tosef, who said you said this well? What's asking you? Sit down, do nothing. If you never did about Tiga, so Rabbi Shua says my logic is better because at the end of the day, when you do nothing, you've done an aveira, it's less bad than getting up and doing an aveira. Says Rabbi Shua, therefore, says what Rabbi Lezer Damahosam Kumase Odif. Good, Rabbi Lezer says get up and throw it. Ochanami Yevet. Rabbi Shua Damahosam Shevatais Odif. Ochanami Lo Yevet. So the Gemara wants to compare the question whether you should come off the tree or stay on the tree to Machlokes of Lezer and Rabbi Shua. Should you sprinkle 4 or 1? I have said Agav. I must admit that somebody showed it to me today. It's literally arranged. There's a Bia Aloch in Simon Amadalat for those who put in our Beidu Tam Tefillin. The Mishvur writes a huge avichos that you must make sure to have kavanah, that you don't know if it's a mitzvah, because maybe it's not a mitzvah, maybe it's wrong. Oh, cheshbonos, the kavanahs. Mishvur is quite strict about it. And in the middle of it, he says like this: you should know there are some people that say to themselves, if I do a mitzvah wrong, as long as but it's okay, I'm okay. He says over here, it says, I look in the Gemara even Daf Kuf. The halacha is all korbanos that if you only sprinkle once, you're yotza, right? It's what's the word Lashon of the Mishnah is? The Lashon of the Mishnah is Imloi Nosan Leik. That's by the Yisod. But I say if you didn't put it, if you only do it once, you're yotza. He says we have a whole Gemara on Eiruvin, where the Gemara is discussing how to avoid Baltis Baltiga, where we know that everybody agrees that if you just do it once a yotza, is a raya that you can still be over on Baltiga if you be Mekayim the mitzvah, if you haven't done it the correct way. So it says that the way it comes in there is according to the time that you put the pashas the wrong way. If the time is wrong, then the pashas are no good. So you're over Baltiga, so if you have to have kavod that maybe it's a suffix, they shouldn't have kavod the shem mitzvah, you should have kavod the shem suffix. It's very interesting. The Bialocha says, and from here I'd like to tell off those that say to themselves, okay, I was Yotze b'diavad, that's fine. He says if they were to learn the Gemara and Eiruvin properly, they would come to the conclusion that what they're doing is wrong. Because here, this whole, because everybody agrees by Kabbanis, one is enough. But it's still over Baltiga. Okay, that's a side point to do with this Gemara. It's very interesting. Okay. So the Gemara says the machlokas there, whether you should sprinkle the blood for or what, is the machlokas here, should you come off the tree or sit the tree? And the Gemara says you can't compare. Ad kaluk Rabbi Lezer Osam Kumasi Odif Ela de Kovid Mitzvah. There, Rabbi Lezer says do it because he wants you to be mekayem the mitzvah of sprinkling the blood. Here, there's no mitzvah to come off the tree. Rabbi Lezer says go and do it. Why do I want you to do it? Because I want you to be mekayem the mitzvah. Over here, coming off the tree, you're not going to be mekayem mitzvah coming off the tree. So you can't compare there, where by doing it, sprinkling it, you may end up doing a proper mitzvah. No, that's not considered a mitzvah. Coming off the tree itself is not only Shabbos. You're not doing an issa by sitting there, by not sprinkling blood. You're not doing an issa because the status of doing nothing is not an issa. But we hear when you're doing an issa, what's the issa you're doing? That you are sitting on a tree. Maybe you should come down. So in fact, the Gemara says you cannot compare this case to that case. There, it's a question of trying to do a mitzvah. Here, there's no mitzvahs over here. But here, whatever you've done is wrong. That's one way. Another round is here, whatever you do, you'll be doing an avera by staying still. There, by not doing anything, you won't be over an avera. You can't compare them. So the Maisa, we pass in all of these halachas, and therefore, if somebody says to you, I climbed a tree on Shabbos, can I come off? What would you say to him? Oh, if you went up on Shabbos, b'mezit, he's stuck the entire Shabbos. Yes.
Every second you sit on the tree, is that another issa?
Yes. Yes.
Every time, like how many is one? Is it one issa or?
I don't know.
So if you go down, yeah, but if it's one issa getting down, then you have the minutes on the one.
I don't know if you say that, because at the end of the day, Chazal established what you should do. So, is there an example? Right, so again, so if you get up on a tree on B'mezit on Shabbos, you have to stay there the entire Shabbos. Tony Chada. They have one advice that says Echad Ilonach V'Echad Yovesh, that whether it's a dry tree, a dry over here means a dead tree. So we'll keep to the word dead because it's easier. A dead tree or not a dead tree is forbidden. Why is it forbidden? Oh, there's no kites on a dead tree. If you've got a dead tree, there's no issa kites. Very good. No, it's xera. It's xera because if we see people climbing dead trees, so people will say if dead trees are allowed to climb live trees. And live trees, when you pull off a branch, is a issa deraisa of kites. So we don't allow you to climb a dead tree in case it goes down. But another bias says if it's a dead tree, a dry tree, it's mutter. It's a contradiction. It depends if you can rejuvenate. If there's a chance to rejuvenate, then that's considered awesome because at the end of the day there's koitza. But if it's never going to rejuvenate, it can never swap, it can never regrow, that's mutter. That's called dried out. The fact that it can still rejuvenate is not yovish. Yovish means something that's dried, withered out. That's not withered out. It's still got growth inside it. In the summer, in the winter, you can't tell the difference between a dead tree and a live tree. All the trees look bad. So if we allow you to climb a dead tree, somebody will climb a live tree because they can't tell the difference. All the trees got no leaves, etc. In the summer, everybody can see the difference. You can see that's a dead tree and that's a live tree. That's growing, it's got leaves, etc. So, what? Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's bad. They're letting the water come out. Very good. So therefore, in the summer, where we can easily tell the difference between a live tree and a dead tree, we allow you to go on a dead tree because we won't mix up to a live tree. But in the winter, we forbid it. Says the Gemara. So it comes out in the summer, it's mutter. You're allowed to climb a dead tree in the summer. At the end of the day, the Gemara understands that even if it's dead, there's still fruit alive on it. So what would the lekker period? There's no fruit. When you can see the twigs will fall off. And when the twigs fall off, you're doing kaitza on those live twigs. One understands. One says, but we're talking about a trunk. We're not talking about a tree that has lots of branches and fruit. It's just a trunk. Rav came to a town called Apasli, forbade in Geduda. That means they forbade him to climb up a trunk. Rav saw that they were being lenient on the Shabbos, so he decided to be extra machmir. We've had this many times in Shas. I cannot tell you how many times I remember them. That we have a few places where Rav decided that because people are visiting to make, it's going to be too machmir. So Me'ikeh din like this: you're allowed to climb a dead tree in the summer only, when there are no branches and fruit which are still alive on it, and only in a place where people are not meikol. The Rif writes that nowadays everybody becomes so mezazan on Shabbos that we all have to take on this chumov, but not all the Rishonim agree with the Rif. So not so straightforward about climbing a dead tree. According to most Rishonim, you're allowed to climb a dead tree in the summer if it's got no leaves, no branches, and no fruit. According to the Rif, it's asa. But in the winter, it's always asa because people will easily get mixed up. A person should walk on grass on Shabbos. Anybody wants to suggest why? What? Yeah, kotza. What is kotza? You're harvesting. We'll see. Somebody who rushes, otz means to rush, is a sinner. Somebody rushes with his feet. But what Bai says it's mutter, what Bai says it's also. No kasha. If they're dry, say here, when they're dry, what happens is they are dead. Since they're dead, there's no problem because there's no problem with kotzah. If they're moist, they're alive, so it's forbidden. Here Rashi is an interesting svar. It seems that in the summer, grass has a lot of seeds inside it. And since it's got a lot of seeds, grass, if it gets old, gets seeds. And when you walk on the grass, it knocks the seeds out of the grass, and you're actually planting. So in the summer, you're not allowed to. In the winter, you are allowed to. The opposite to what we had before. Before we said in the summer, you're allowed to in trees because you can tell the difference between live and dead trees. Here it's the opposite way around. That in the summer, you're going to plant the grass because it's got these little seeds on it. So if it's us in the winter, it's mutter. Both throughout the summer. If you're wearing shoes, it makes a difference if you're wearing shoes. What would you say logically? Wearing shoes makes it more mutter or more awesome?
Mutter because you're showing you're just walking. So you don't want the.
I'm afraid no.
Both wrong.
Both wrong. No, in the logic you're wrong. No. When you're walking without shoes, your toes get twisted in the grass and they pluck the grass. When you wear shoes, so if you wear socks, it's also okay. If you wear socks or shoes, what happens is you don't get tangled in the grass. If you walk with your bare feet in grass, it'll get tangled. You walk with shoes, it doesn't get tangled. If it's got studs, if it's got spikes, so that it pulls out the grass. If it's got no spikes, it is mutter. It depends if it's short grass or long grass. What would you say long logically?
Long is worse.
Long is worse. Rashi says that. Why? Because in long grass, you're going to pluck it. So what? The Kavalon Kurab Shimon. Now we pass like Shimon Kulu Shavi. We pass him Sikresha. So, Domish in this kind is mutter, and therefore it's mutter. So Mishnah 4 brings this all down, and then he finishes off that if you run on the long grass, it is asa. Why? Because that is Sikresha. Sikresha means it's definitely going to pluck the grass. So you're not allowed to run on long grass. And Mishmor, interestingly enough, says, if you think about the Lashon of the Pasuk, the otz beraglaim, what's the word otz mean? It means to rush. So he said, the maskona, the rushing is forbidden. Walking slowly is okay. New topic. A person should not force his wife to be a mitzvah. The word raglaim is often a euphemism for tashmish, like we have by Yoel, Ben Maglev. So if a person rushes, that the behavior that a person has with his wife can affect the children. When a person doesn't have the knowledge, meaning the desire and the what's the knowledge of the consent. Oh, nefesh lo tov, the neshama will be no good. I just say the thing. I saw something in the board down in Maharal. I saw the shock. They God and they were Eiruvin never ever came to live in the Eretz. Why not? So it's interesting to think. Yaakov, when he married Leah, thought he was marrying Rachel. And God was the Shivcha God. It was a sign of betrayal. Because she wasn't really so happy, Leah, to give away her maidservant. So those two marriages, because he thought he was thinking about what he was living with one, he was living with the other. Another one where he wasn't so happy, made a tiny pegamin in the Shama, that hundreds of years later they couldn't have the Kedusha to go into Eretz Yisrael. No, because by then he knew it was Rachel and Leah. It was only the first night that he thought it was Rachel and Leah. Okay. What? Oh, Tani Nami Ochi? What do you say? Tani Nami Ochi. It's a fighting thing. Tani Ochi Kavlu Das Nefesh Shativ Zakevish Dva Mitzvah. That's when your force is no good. V'os B'aglayim Chayt is Abol V'Shoino. First is Bol V'Shoino, does it twice, it's tiring on the wife, and therefore it is an Aveya. It's a good thing. That's Rashi, if you look at Rashi explains, because the idea is that sometimes afterwards a person can feel more attracted, therefore sometimes the Bol V'Shoino is better. If it depends if there's consent or not consent. If she wants it, it's good. If not, not. Any woman that asks from her husband for Dvar Mitzvah, nobody ever would have such big tzaddikim like her children. Why? Yisrael advised him to get people who chachamim do him. What's the difference between a chacham and a navoin? Rashi talks about this. Chacham and Novin. Oh, Chacham means he understands everything you tell him. That's Chacham. Novin is Bina that he can work out. Is that what you said? I didn't say. I'm sorry. Bina is he can work out things which you haven't been told. And what happened was, but in the Voinim lo yashkach, he never found any Nevoinim. They had that kind of knowledge. All the brothers of Christ listened to them. So the Gemara says, you see that it's a good thing. You see that it's a good thing that a woman should show interest to her husband. Chal got 10 curses. In fact, if you look at the Medrash, the Nochash got 10 curses, or the Rishon got 10 curses, and Chal got 10 curses. There's two kinds of blood. It's voynich, that's bringing up children. Mashal writes that even though even men have to help, but the main pain is the wives. And that's the Gemara says in Yavam is dayan shmegadus is for nenu because they have to look after the children. Voynich said ibum. Be'etzav to the bonim k'mashmo is referring to the pain of birth. But ishech shkosich v'nam ish was to kekes al v'shosh yitz ledech. That she desires that a woman wants, but it doesn't say anything, and the man is allowed to say that he wants. So you see over here that it's not a good thing for a woman to say clearly. It's a certain brazenness to say she wants. That what happens is she shows that she wants it without actually saying that she wants it. That is the best. So the Teras Chaim asks the question, but Leo said clearly, Elai Tovoy. So he says that by the Ovois HaKadoshim, we see many times they use language which for us would be hard to understand, because since they did it all L'Shem Shomayim, so therefore Rashi, for example, says that when Yaakov wants to marry Rachel, he says to Lavan, let me take her and be with her. And Rashi says, but when the Ovois HaKadoshim, they meant all L'Shem Mitzvah, they didn't see it. It was like Od Mission before the Chet. There was no bush involved because they only saw the Mitzvah Shvur, not the Avir Shvur. Says if you count all the curses, there was only 7, and we said there's going to be 10. Because of the that she's like a mourner, meaning that the woman has to be very tznistic, therefore she has to cloak herself like the hijab. What's it called? What do they call the hijab? I think it is burqa. So she's like an oval. She keeps away from all people. More explained in a minute what it means. The chavush v'sasum, she has to stay at home because the woman has to be tznistic. So that's another 3. My menud mikol adam. Ilim shudasa lo yichud. That's forbidden to have yichud. Nami also yichud. Men also yichud. It's not just for women. And a dasir the Beit Reish is forbidden to have yichud with two men. Mashik the man, that the man is allowed to be with. So I made a mistake. Dasir the Beit Reish means she's also to marry two men. She's not allowed to marry two men. While a man is allowed to marry two wives, a woman, what? Man is allowed to marry two wives, a woman is not allowed to marry two husbands. Oh. Right. Says, but I said, the Brisa says three others. That means this Brisa said 7 curses plus 3. Now we've got another version of another 3 curses. She has to have long hair like a shade. That when she wants to urinate, she has to do it sitting, but she can do it standing. That she's like a pillow to her husband, meaning that the mitzvah, the mitzvah is that the husband should be on top, so therefore she's like a support, therefore that is a pain for her. So those are the 3 curses, not the 3 which said before. The other man, didn't take hold of these. These 3 things is a praise. We learn from the animals of the world, and we learn from the birds. A preda is like a kind of mule, where when it urinates, it does it in a very modest manner. So we learn from here that when a person goes to the bathroom, we should do it in a hidden manner. That before he's intimate, he's mafias, he appeases and he says nice things. We learn sneers from a cat. Rashi says that cats don't relieve themselves in front of people, and when they do relieve themselves, they always cover it.
Yeah.
What? They dig a hole. And we would learn theft from an ant. That what happens is that ants store huge amounts of food for the winter, and nobody touches each other's food. That they keep to each other, they are double, have 1 pound for life. But what does he do? Before he has relations, he says to her, I'll buy you a cloak that reaches all the way to the floor. That way to make her feel good. After that, he says to her, because he doesn't have any cloaks to give her, it's the crest of the chicken should fall off. If I have and I don't buy it for you. Meaning, what he does is he shows her that he's very nice, that he likes her, and he's ready to buy whatever she wants, and then really ought to buy her a special cloak. And then he finishes off by saying, unfortunately, I don't have the cloak, and if I would, it sounds like a fraud. So Mr. Silverstein is safer called. What's the sefer of Mr. Silverstein? You know what's it called? Chemed. There's a sefer. Stay Chemed is not Stay Chemed. It's over here. What's the sefer of Mr. Silverstein? Yeah, there was one Gemara, much more volumes. Which that for what? Oh, Chashukei Chemed. Chashukei Chemed writes that you see from over here that the Gemara says you're allowed to machnif leisho. That when a person speaks to his wife, a person can, what's the word for it? A person who speaks to his wife can speak in exaggerated expressions, and there's nothing wrong. Okay. Right. What was I trying to think? What do you think? Okay, we'll stop here. I don't know I got it right. Okay, I'd start with everything in touch. Okay.